Greetings, Race community. Brent coming in live from Evertrue HQ here in Boston, Massachusetts. Haven't said that too much over the last 20 months or so, but I am in Boston today, and I am thrilled to welcome our guest, Blaire Velocity Atkinson, who is the president of the Oklahoma State University Foundation. Welcome, Blaire.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I am really looking forward to getting to know you better. I have had some very memorable trips to Stillwater. Your team is unbelievably gracious and just has been an amazing partnership for us over the years, but haven't had the opportunity to spend all that much time with you. And so I wanted to just start by rewinding a bit and just learning a little bit more about where you grew up and ultimately what led you to Oklahoma State University. So take me back to, let's say, junior year of high school. Who was that Blaire? What was she into? And what led you to Oklahoma State?
Well, I am originally from Northwest Oklahoma, a little town, middle of nowhere, near Woodward. So Vici, Oklahoma. They're a really small school. And there I was really into sports. I grew up on a farm. My dad's a veterinarian. He came to Oklahoma State. So when I graduated, I was determined not to come to Oklahoma State. I really wanted to live anywhere other than a farm. So I started my higher ed career in Oklahoma City at.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Woodward, Oklahoma right now on the map. We're kind of, up there near the Panhandle. And you mentioned that your father's a veterinarian. And one of the things that I've done over the years, especially when we were in more of the in-person conference circuit, I love asking development professionals like kind of the craziest stories they've encountered over their career. And one of the craziest stories, which I won't go into here, was one of the development officers at Oregon State University who works with the vet school. And she described her day as like going around from vet clinic to vet clinic. And long story short, she like helped deliver a cow or something on a donor visit at one point. So we will someday document all of those stories. But when you think about crazy stories growing up as the daughter of a vet, anything stand out for you?
We've had many stories like that where you're delivering animals, and so probably nothing that would be too noteworthy, other than lots of midnight runs to go help deliver a baby calf. And my friends used to love it. They thought it was the most fun thing ever to be woken up at 2 a.m. to go on a call to deliver a baby. But again, I didn't go into veterinarian practice for a reason, and nor did I want to be on a farm after that.
It makes me feel, Blaire, that for all of the various shows from, ER to Grey's Anatomy about the healthcare sector, like where's the vet show out there? Like that could happen. Yeah,
for sure. It's a,
people love animals. Your friends love the wake up. I think we're onto something here.
Yeah, amen. I think in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, you get your fair share of even exotic animals or rescued wild animals. And you're thinking, really? A raccoon or a skunk? You want to bring that? Okay. So it's fun.
So you don't want to go to Oklahoma State, and you do. How come?
I do. Well, I went to UCO first. And what I missed there was just connection. It was in Oklahoma City. I wasn't involved in campus life. I wasn't in a sorority. I tried to work full time as many hours as I could just to make some money and be independent. And so I wasn't finding the college experience that I hoped for. And my dad encouraged me, just come to Stillwater, give it a try. And so I eventually transferred to Stillwater and found a family here. So that's what I enjoyed about Oklahoma State, is that it really is a family, a great network of people. If you're wearing orange and you see someone across the country, then you're one of us. And it's an incredible culture here. And so I just fell in love.
I am telling you, I've been on a lot of campuses, and you always see a lot of the color of whatever the mascot is or the school colors are, but you rarely see it with the density that you will see at Oklahoma State University, for sure. Tons of pride, tons of connectivity. And when you think about your college experience, you studied business. Any favorite memories during your time as a student?
Yeah, Gallagher-Iba was the place to be. So Eddie Sutton days of basketball, there was nothing like I mean, you stand in the stairwell to be in a completely packed Gallagher-Iba arena. I can remember beating Texas bad, and it was wonderful. I mean, we did, the whole place was electric, and lots of fun memories in Gallagher-Iba. So.
Those are the memories that in the context of our digital experience over the last 20 months, nobody has been able to figure out how Zoom can create that feeling that you were just describing. So hopefully a lot more of that here in the coming months.
Here. I agree. So
one of the things that I'm just super excited to hear about is we have interviewed almost 100 advancement leaders at this point. You are I think you are the only senior leader of a large foundation that I know of who has really come up the ranks from an HR and talent management perspective. And so very excited to just learn more about what led you into that career path. I mean, when I think about, certain HR roles like recruiting, it can very much feel like development work or sales where you're doing a lot of outbound prospecting and trying to, close the prospect, if you will, but there's obviously a whole host of activities that go into the talent management world. So when during the course of your studies did you start to think about HR as a field, and then ultimately just tell me about some of those early years post-college?
Yeah, so I started to think of HR, I think it was my sixth major. So I really have been trying to find myself, over the last
sixth
decades. Yeah.
Sixth major.
Yeah. So I thought at first I wanted to be a coach. I loved sports. I wanted to be teacher coach. I loved math. So some variation of math. Teacher coach was kind of the path I was heading down. And then decided I wasn't sure that really was going to be what I wanted to do 2, 3, 4 years later. And a friend of mine said, well, HR is kind of like a coach of people in business. Kind of the same thing. I thought, okay, what is HR? What does that even mean? Started doing a little investigation. I'm like, I like that. I like the idea of helping people find their place and find where they can maximize their strength, and I kind of that arrange your personality a little bit. So did business administration and had an option in HR. I started doing HR in banks. During school, I was a teller. So I did banking, open accounts, that sort of thing. It's just my school part-time gig. So then started HR in banks.
By the way, what a great job. Like being a teller. My wife was a teller. She went to Iowa State University. She was a teller. And I think there's some good training for getting used to money and, major gift conversations. So, any moments where you're a teller and you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I just deposited. Yeah.
For sure. And also the realization that the more you make, the more you spend. Like, okay, this is, people even at the highest level are, really contemplating and maximizing how they use their resources. So I thought that was interesting. No matter how much they had, they kind of are diligent in the same way. So
you pivot the teller role into an entry-level HR opportunity at Stillwater National Bank. You show up the first day for that full-time role. What was the job? What were you focused on?
I was an HR coordinator, so it was just any task at hand, onboarding new employees. So I would do orientation and tell them how great this place is. We were a bank before the state was a state. Here's who we are. This is why we matter. This connecting you to cause. So I've always had a little bit of me that really is passion, that altruism of connecting people to cause, and why are we doing what we do and why does it matter? And so my time at the bank, they gave me more opportunities than some young college kid should ever have. And I'm very grateful for my time there, for sure. They're very fortunate. And I eventually left there and went and did HR work in a call center. And that's where I felt like I got real HR, I'll call it real HR. It's baptism by fire. So you're triaging employee relation issues. Suddenly it is your legal counsel as well as HR. So it was a very different environment, but I really appreciated it. And then I did that in the distribution sector. So that was also a lot of fun and met some really great people. What I found in distribution that was fascinating to me is just the culture there. They have really philanthropic hearts. So they didn't have much to give, but they would have given you anything. And it was just this incredible culture that it was really hard for me to leave because I appreciated how giving every employee at that organization was. So when I came here to the OSU Foundation, entry level HR, yeah.
Can I just ask, like during those early years when you're in HR, I mean, let's be honest, people are crazy. I mean, you have the whole spectrum, right? And so you see probably some of, the best stories of growth and development, and you probably see some of the ugliest realities too. I mean, did you just really get thrown into it, or when you dealt with some of those like really high highs or maybe really low lows, I mean, how did you sort of stay balanced?
Yeah, you do see both ends of that spectrum. I'd say in the distribution and the call center environment, it was a broader spectrum. So you got to see people who started at the organization and had been there, 5-10 years and progressively grew and were, the head of the distribution center or had really accomplished quite a lot. And then on the flip side, my first couple of weeks there were truck drivers in a fist fight, and I had to try to figure out how to navigate fist fight. I was recalled yesterday a lawsuit that was filed. An employee said he was let go because he was over 40 and African American, and the true story was he had dropped his pants going through the metal detector, and it was like, okay, wait a second. So just funny things like that you go, okay, how did we get here? But great.
So how do you navigate a fist fight?
Carefully, carefully. I think for all of those, there's a period, and we've had some of those at every job I've been at, where emotions are just so high for people. So step one is just get people calm, move people away from each other, create some calm amid the chaos, and just start working through what happened, valuing every person's perspective. I've learned that you and I could see the same car accident outside the window and we'll describe it totally different. So it's not that we're either one wrong, it's just the lens that we see the world through is different. And that's okay. And so being able to authentically and genuinely hear what someone has to say and how we arrived here and valuing that perspective helps find middle ground. I've always appreciated doing that. I thought, that mediation role is something that I find value in helping people come to common ground in the middle. So
I would say if we had to rank industries by fist fights at work, advancement's probably pretty low, right? I mean, we're pretty low.
We haven't had any of those yet.
So I hope our audience is enjoying the kind of spiced up version of, the career path here. Yeah. It might help you reframe some of the frustrations that you all might be having at work right now. At least you don't have fist fights flying and pants being dropped. So with all of that, I meant to ask, when did you learn, when did you really get to know that the Oklahoma State Foundation was a thing, right? Because when you're a student, there's all kinds of organizations and you hear something, but you don't really know what it does or what the impact was, unless, maybe as a student, you were a beneficiary or you got involved. And so when kind of along your journey, because, it's common among our audience for folks to maybe go into advancement right out of school, or they start right at their alma mater. So you really had several years in this sort of nearby, right? You're in Stillwater, you're in the area. I'm sure you're still going to basketball games and football games and all of those things. But when did you start to think about the business that is philanthropy and that sort of mission at Oklahoma State?
Honestly, not until I applied for a job here. I didn't know the foundation existed. After college, we'd moved about 70 miles away and started a family and had become a little disconnected and had decided we wanted to relocate to Stillwater. And as I was starting to look for jobs, a friend of mine, way back in the banking days, knew a couple of people here and said, you should talk to the foundation. And I thought, who's the foundation? What do they do? What is this place? And just through that search, got connected with the foundation. and I didn't know when I was a student here, I didn't know anything about the foundation. I couldn't have told you what philanthropy or advancement was a decade ago. Honestly, I just really was not involved. But I knew I loved higher education. I knew there was something about higher ed that I felt like really could change the world. And
why? Why do you feel that way?
I think it solves all of society's problems. If you think about incarceration and food and poverty, I just think education's the key. It's the real way that we solve it. So I knew I loved academia. I knew I loved higher ed. I knew I wanted to live in a small town, which we do, but I wanted it to be close to a college campus because I think you get the benefits different than living in a small town in rural Oklahoma. You get to experience so much more. So that's all I knew. I didn't really know foundation. I didn't know about fundraising. I didn't know how all that kind of fit together, but have learned a lot the last decade for sure.
And so you joined in 2011. You spent, 13 years, I guess, or no, 8 years at least in human resources. And then, that was a period of growth. I mean, what were you focused on? Any like favorite memories during that core HR period?
Yeah, I mean, when I started in 2011, we had under 100 employees, and we were hiring people like crazy. So really correlating fundraising to development work. I mean, I just hired somebody here as our vice president of development that I've known for 10 years. When I started here, I'm like, okay, he's staying on my radar. He's going to be great, and I want to work with him. And so I've got a little list.
Shout outs.
Yeah.
Shout outs. Who's that?
Scott Roberts.
That's Mr. Scott Roberts. Yeah, Roberts, absolutely.
Awesome. He is just awesome. And we have known each other 10 years. And just that's part of what this similar HR recruiting is very similar to what we do in building these long-term relationships. And so I'm glad for Scott to be here. But that was the theme 10 years ago in HR, was hiring people like crazy. We are a very progressive organization.
So can I just ask, like, hiring people like crazy, that's exciting, but you don't get it all right. And so especially when, there's that pace and the pressure, just curious if you developed any, I don't know, patterns or lessons learned along the way where, when you think about some of the greatest successes, or maybe, like nobody hires somebody thinking it's not going to work out, right? Like that is the day when it's like everybody's gung-ho, like everybody's fired up. And then, post onboarding or even during onboarding, things start to pretty quickly trend the right direction or the wrong direction. And so I'm sure there had to be some course correction along the way.
Yeah, there has been, but I would say it's weird. I appreciate organizational behavior, people behavior. And I would say as an organization in extreme growth in that first, 5 years of my tenure here, we had the benefit of being able to create jobs around people's strengths. We had both the resources to do that and the need that if someone wasn't the perfect fit as we had hoped in a specific job, but they were a great culture fit, we could create a new job that really built around their strengths. At post-campaign, you level off a little and you don't have that same ability anymore to put and add more people based upon their skill set. So we went through a period where we had to go through reduction and a reorganization and realign staff in the right seats on the bus, which was hard in any industry, but definitely in nonprofit industry. It's a really hard thing to do, to restructure or reduce workforce. And some of that was just the evolution of focus, during campaign and post-campaign. But I'd say we're just at the place that we're in that same growth again, where we're adding more people. So my hope is we still can do a little bit of that movement when someone gets here and we realize, okay, the dust has settled. We thought this was the perfect role. Now we know a little bit more about your gifts. And so let's reposition the role just a little bit, adding things that really suit someone's gifts, and reshuffle kind of organizational responsibilities as we can. The thing I love about this place.
So tell me about, your career path. It's HR, senior vice president of development services, like not the pivot that I would have expected. Probably not the pivot you would have expected, but obviously it was an important one, which I'm sure was a catalyst for the role that you're now in. So just tell me a little bit about that transition, and then ultimately the move to the Alumni Association as well, which, as a young alumna, relatively disconnected, who doesn't know what the foundation is, probably wouldn't have predicted that either.
No, absolutely not. I would say all of it has been a surprise. Most of my career, I felt that way. I think what gets me into trouble into these jobs is I just genuinely will do whatever the task is, and I'm always the person that's like, yeah, I can help. What do you need? Happy to help. Happy to help. And so the development services job was vacant for about a year, and we were in search for who that person was. And my boss at the time was like, would you do that job? I mean, here's what we need. We need the team to come together here. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I can do it. So I was happy to try to help. And that job, the same as every other job. Okay, you can do that as soon as you find your replacement. So I have about 3 months of doing both HR and head of development services, which was fun, and enjoyed that job. I loved knowing
and just for our audience, maybe like development services isn't always a common title. How would you define what development services is or was at that time in your role?
Yeah, so we had flattened our organization, eliminated a vice president role, and really had 5 roles serving as vice president, reporting to the CEO. So in mine, I was over marketing, communications, donor relations, stewardship, special events. That was the primary focus of development services. We had a women's philanthropy program under that as well, Women for OSU, which was a lot of fun. And then we had 4 other leaders. So information strategy, a shout out to Chris Campbell. If you all don't know Chris Campbell, he is the best in the business, super innovative. He's had information strategy since that time and has just taken us to next level. And then we had 3 others on the development side that were principal gifts, central development, and constituency development. So the 5 of us together really did the role of a vice president and had our each individual areas. So it was a unique structure, but a great opportunity.
And so you pivoted from really being focused on, the talent pipeline, from recruitment to onboarding to professional development to offboarding, right? And all of that, to really jumping into a leadership. Now, while you're doing that, I'm sure you're getting lots of exposure to the work of the foundation and what all of those different segments are, but you hadn't done donor relations, you hadn't done marketing and communications, but at the same time, you're sort of thrust into a leadership role. What was the biggest challenge when you think about the portfolio of work that you had sort of under you, where you maybe just felt like, whoa, I've been at the foundation for a while, but I really didn't know, about this or that, or maybe there wasn't anything that felt like a learning curve?
Well, there was quite a lot of learning curve. I think the 8 years prior in HR, though, I saw myself as a business partner, and that people problems create process problems, or process problems create people problems. So I had the opportunity to really understand how the processes worked, because you'd see connectivity to where we had issues bubble up or where we needed new staff, that sort of thing. I would say the biggest challenge was really understanding how those service entities served the frontline role. There was just an influx of tasks, but little prioritization. And it's probably not different. Any industry I've seen that, where the kind of front of house and back of house, there's some disconnect in prioritization and value of each. And so that was a challenge then, as I think it probably still is at the foundation. So, and then most of it is in a leadership role. Most of your challenges are people related. So I felt like I was getting out of HR, and what I realized was, no, you're in HR. I mean, that's what we do as leaders is HR related things. So I've been able to use those skills quite a lot in that role.
Well said. And tell me about the move to the Alumni Association and the relationship between the foundation and the Alumni Association when you stepped in as president.
Yeah, so Much like all my other roles, it was this, they were making a change at the Alumni Association. The question was, could you fill in the middle? Could you provide interim support? And I said,
And
yeah.
can I ask, when you took that role, or even prior to that, was the president of the Alumni Association reporting into the foundation, or was it, yeah?
They're two separate 501c3s.
And so who did the president of the Alumni Association report to?
They had a separate board as well, just like the OSC Foundation. So a completely separate governing board. There's about 25 employees at the Alumni Association and about a 16% governing board that managed that. So it was actually the board chair who had worked with my boss at the foundation to conjure this, would I fill in the middle? And I said, yeah, absolutely. But it wasn't a job I thought I wanted full time. I honestly didn't know a lot about what the Alumni Association did. I know that's embarrassing to say as well. But I did. We have America's Greatest Homecoming here. So shout out to the Alumni Association and the 8 homecoming.
Is that a trademarked, copyrighted expression? Okay.
America's Greatest Homecoming. And it is America's Greatest. We have 80,000 alums that come back. It's incredible.
That's amazing.
And it's student led. I mean, great students that put this on. And so I knew they did that, but I didn't really know what they did. I just knew I really valued the leaders that were in the organization and that had been there before. They were friends and trusted colleagues. So I knew them personally. And I knew that as they were going through change, I was happy to help serve to make sure that the people there still had support that they needed going through the change. As the time went on and they started their search and they were starting to review candidates, the board chair and vice chair said, okay, are you sure you don't want to apply for this job? Everything's going great. I mean, are you sure? And I, by then, had really connected with the staff and really connected to what they do there. So I decided that I would be interested.
And can I ask, sometimes there can be tension between an alumni association and the foundation. And there certainly has been a tradition over the last 10 years, or a trend towards mergers and integration and so forth. And so, given that you had come from the foundation, were folks skeptical at all, or was there just a willingness? Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They absolutely. There was quite a lot of concern that this meant we were merging. And honestly, the board, can I ask, what do you think? And I'm like, I just need time. I don't know the business well enough. I don't know why we're separate. I want to learn and evaluate what's best for the enterprise in totality. But there was fear of merger. And I think my heart is always to be just really transparent with staff to walk them through where we are. So I hope during that season, they felt like I was really transparent and that we talked about the concern as it really was. And we went through it as a team to say, why would that be a bad thing? And what does it mean for us? And through that process, I think I realized and really came to appreciate in the advancement world, the role of the Alumni Association. It really is the long game. So we say there that our job at the Alumni Association was to create irrational brand loyalty, just wild enthusiasm and affinity, regardless of how old someone is, regardless of where they live, just irrational brand loyalty was the goal. Deepen pride and love in OSU. That's what every day we wake up and we want to make sure everybody has deep connection and pride in our university. And that was fun. It was different too than what the foundation does. And so we really found, I think, preservation of mission was important and valuing both of those roles. And I think I wouldn't have known what advancement meant without that. I think as the foundation, we were moving so fast here. We were doing a lot of things here that really should have been Alumni Association roles. We just were moving fast and didn't really look up to say, actually, I think Alumni Association should be doing that and not us. So it's been really fun to try to put the pieces together to say, we can do this together. A piece of paper of a merger doesn't change anything. If we want to think about advancement strategically, and we want to think about the value of the Alumni Association arm and the foundation arm and how we do this together, we can do that. It just takes great leadership. It takes people sitting around the table, talking about what's working, what's not, talking about, what's best for the constituent, what's best for the donor. And we've started that. So our Alumni Association executive team and foundation executive team actually just earlier this week sat down and talked about, okay, what's membership and what's annual giving? How do we think of it in the same ways? How do we think of it in different ways? How can we work together to really elevate the university and really focusing on university first? So if we're partners in advancement, it isn't about them, it's not about us, it's all about OSU. And if we keep that at the center, we can move far and fast.
I love it. And I think the expression irrational brand enthusiasm, is that what you said? Or loyalty?
Loyalty.
Rational brand loyalty. I'm going to take with me. I think every business leader should be thinking that way. Stillwater National Bank should be trying to create a rational brand loyalty. It's a really, really great expression. But at the same time, we talk a lot about the giving funnel at Evertrue, right? How do you take like a marketing and sales approach and have, what is the top of funnel? The top of funnel is just brand awareness and passion and interest. And then you need to go further down the funnel to getting informed and really considering a purchase, whether the purchase is a membership or the purchase is a planned gift, your sort of ultimate gift. And so one of the advantages is by having an organization like the Alumni Association laser focused on that brand loyalty and awareness and America's greatest homecoming. There's just clarity of focus, but at the same time, that can create challenges as it relates to actually converting all of that brand loyalty into pipeline, into annual donors, into planned gift donors for the next campaign. And so how do you think about making sure that there's not just like amazing enthusiasm out there, but also amazing enthusiasm that is then segmented and converted into, the revenue objectives that you all have to achieve?
Yeah, well, that was our conversation Monday really was about that. So getting people to commit time, talent, and treasure and measuring that. So at the Alumni Association, they do a great job of measuring engagement, both opens and clicks and attendance at events, and really trying to track constituents in where they are in their engagement and trying to convert them, of course, member donor. And we use those a little interchangeably because, the membership model there really is the brand that sits on top of annual giving. So knowing that someone would engage with being a member, a chapter member, an alumni member, differently than they would maybe at a certain stage to say, I want to be an annual donor of $50. So we really try to segment what groups will respond to what message, the right message, the right time, the right person. And so that conversation, this week really was trying to help propel those two teams to working more collaboratively to get that pipeline. When I went to the Alumni Association, what I learned was there was not a huge connection. The Alumni Association was getting great data, but it was never coming over here. They were getting data on who's coming to homecoming. People were registered, never came over. Students with career service, we weren't getting it. There really wasn't collaborative tracking of, what constituents were up to. There was, I'd say it was probably good for our industry, but could be better. So, we share the same database now. So it was just the awareness of how the foundation and how the university could use that engagement data more strategically. That's where we were missing. That they're engaged in a chapter. We weren't getting that they were investing their time in a chapter. So those are little things like that. But we were getting bio, demo updates, that sort of thing, as you'd expect.
So you're convinced to sort of throw your hat in the ring for the Alumni Association job. You get it. Sounds like you really enjoyed it. You overcame the skepticism. And then, 1 minute before the pandemic started, somebody thought that it would be worthwhile for you to throw your hat in another ring, or how did this come about?
Yeah, it was kind of another weird, I don't know how it came about, but there was a process here at the foundation to search for a president, and I was involved to the extent that I wanted there to be a great person here because I wanted that relationship to be really strong. As the search went on, I'd get periodic questions from people. Are you going to apply? Are you going to apply? I was like, no, not interested. This is a great gig. And then I got a call from university leadership that said, hey, I know your heart is in just doing what's best for OSU. I'm like, absolutely. And I've always said that. Put me anywhere. At some point, that's going to be, mopping the floor somewhere. I have no doubt. But for now, just put me wherever you need me, and I'm happy to serve. And so they said, I really think that you can serve the university better from the foundation. I think that you can serve the Alumni Association better from the foundation. I think that you'll have a broader and bigger impact for the university at the foundation. I really want you to consider it. And that was really hard for me. I wish I could say it was just a no-brainer, but it was hard for a lot of reasons. I love the people here. I kept thinking, surely there's somebody better for the foundation. Have you looked everywhere? That I think there's probably somebody else. And I love the Alumni Association. I felt like we'd just gotten moving. We changed our funding model. We had changed our brand. We changed our membership model just in that first year and a half. And I felt like we were just getting our legs under us. So I had a hard time. But I said yes, but asked for a 6-month transition. So for 6 months, I was kind of one foot in both worlds, which in hindsight is a really bad idea. So if anybody's listening, 6 months is really hard. Really, I don't know how many hours, and my family is a real saint in that because they saw me very little in that time, but a lot of good people, and we made it through it. So a 6-month transition. I started here just in time for pandemic. Which also was an adventure. I got to learn the budget really quickly here also. So that was good. But yeah.
What is the job of the president of the Oklahoma State Foundation?
Yeah, so it's more complicated than I gave it credit for. So there's certainly a component as a separate entity. We manage the assets of the university. So I knew that piece of it. It's about $1 billion in assets. So my old banking time is really coming in handy for that piece of it. The thing I have enjoyed most is really, connecting with alumni and donors. It's this feeling of our main job is building relationships, and it's helping foster those relationships such that we can help them make a difference and propel the university forward. And I love that. I hadn't given enough credit probably for what that looks like to donors and what that looks like to the university. But I'll tell you, with the new president, Dr. Schrum, who is phenomenal, we're going places, and we're going to go places fast. And so this job primarily really will be being that conduit to say, here's where we're going, come with us. We've got big dreams, and we want you to be a part of it.
First impressions matter, and your first impression is incredibly positive of Dr. Schrum. Why do you feel that? What is it about the early interactions and your, extra enthusiasm for the future?
Yeah, she is very strategic, I will tell you, incredibly intelligent, and she's creative. So her ability to solve problems, she does it very creatively. So I love that. We're going to build a comprehensive strategic plan. The thing I also love, I love higher ed, and I love what we do here, but I also love land grants. So Oklahoma State is a land grant. There are many other land grants around, and there's something different about being a land grant. And it's this.
Why? What is it?
It's service to community. So it's not just about educating the student. It's not just about doing great work and research, but it's really about pouring that back into our communities and solving society's greatest needs. And Dr. Schrum sees that. She sees this connection to university and serving communities, and university and serving industry, and really helping propel our state and nation forward. And so that's exciting to me, because that's what fulfills me too, is that I think that higher ed can change the world. And I think a land grant is perfectly suited to do that. And she really connects to that land grant mission. So it's going to be fun.
And the way that higher ed changes the world is changing one life over and over and over and over. And one of the stories that you've shared, which I'm so excited to hear about, is this tradition you've developed where you really, I mean, I think, look, $1 billion, endowment proceeds, annual fund, the constant question of, but where did my gift really go? Like, who did it help? Did it help that student, this student? You've got this amazing program that everybody listening should copy and steal immediately and document it and share it on social media. Tell me about helping one donor pay off a future teacher's student debt.
Yeah, so we have an awesome donor. This was one of the first experiences I had as president here, and I will never forget it. He is so passionate about helping teachers. And every year he'll ask us to go through the student records and find someone that has a debt that looks between a certain level. And he will pay that off. We find the student and he wants to pay off their debt. But he does it in a way that's so incredible, both for the student, for him, and everybody else in the room. So my first memory, we were here in the foundation. We sat down with the donor, and we have a student come. The student thinks that they're coming to tell us about why they decided to be a teacher and where they're going, and a little about their student experience, and just connecting with the donor, which many of our students do all the time and are fabulous at it. Student comes up, they tell us this great story. We ask questions like, where are you from? And, did you have help? And tell us about, why scholarships were important to you, so on. And then the donor just says, okay, I want to tell you that I'm going to pay off all your debt. And it's just tears. I mean, immediate tears. Like, my mom and I were struggling. We didn't know how we were going to do this. And so powerful, so powerful. I mean, it's for both of them. And he has those students every year. He'll invite them to the football suite. He stays connected with them. It's just incredible. Just incredible.
Blaire, have you seen any of the viral videos where, I mean, this is reminding me of the walk on to the football team when, the coach, the whole team knows that, that Brent's going to get the scholarship, and they, announce it and the room erupts. And like, those have just become awesome, like good vibe, viral videos out there. Like what you just described to me is like the advancement version of that, but we don't see that. And maybe it's about like student privacy or donor privacy or humility. But part of me is like, that's what we need to be showcasing. Like, I want to see like the debt paid off, their friends going crazy, and like that being the message of like the impact of one donor on one life. Now let's do that, 30,000 times. And how do we kind of bring some of that emotion and energy to this space?
Yeah, I do think at OSU, it's the humble factor. We say a lot, we have a hard time promoting those things. We have a hard time showcasing what we're good at. And it's what we love, but it's also our worst enemy. So, now I'm going to ask, okay, can I share all of this everywhere and see what they say?
I think you should. I mean, I would have the videographer there, and and it doesn't have to be 100 friends, erupting in joy, but just the authentic connection. Nobody gets a window into that interaction. Like, you've seen it because of your role, but even your team hasn't seen that. And like, how do we really continue to, in the spirit of building irrational brand loyalty, like that kind of story is an example of how you do that in this TikTok, YouTube sort of era that we're all living in.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely.
I love it. I can't wait to see next year's video then.
Definitely.
Other thing I definitely wanted to cover, I think you're the first guest on the podcast who is a member of YPO.
Yeah.
And that should not be the case. Tell me about YPO and tell me why more of your peers in advancement leadership roles should be members.
Oh my gosh, I hope anyone out there who is not a member of YPO, please look into it. Young Presidents Organization. It's a global organization, so you'll have a chapter near you, I can assure you. Wherever it is that you are, there'll be a chapter near you. I'm in the Oklahoma City chapter. I just joined a little over a year ago, so I'm relatively new. We have about 60 people, I think, in that chapter. And it's an incredible group of people. I'll say, when you're the head of an organization, it's different. There's nobody behind you. There's nobody you're, when they say it's lonely at the top, maybe it is, I'm not sure, but finding a group of people that really understand and can relate to where you are, and help you solve problems. So there's a number of times that I'm just feeling stuck, and the content and the relationships there through the programming that they have, you really do get inspired by what other people are doing in other industries, maybe not related to you at all. But it also just wonderful relationships with really great leaders in the state of Oklahoma. So I have loved every minute of that.
One of my friends from business school was early to join YPO and has just been an incredible evangelist for it. I'm curious, like, your favorite memory from YPO so far.
So I've gone to 2 YPO retreats, and I just got in a forum. So I'm sure at some point I'll have great forum stories. That's kind of the roundtable that really provides a lot of value for YPO. But in the 2 retreats, we just went to West Virginia and had a fantastic trip there. I'll say it was fun because I'm there and the governor is in a whitewater raft with me. My kids are like, "Wait, you were whitewater rafting with the governor?" And I said, "Yeah, we were." It was fun. And we had a great time.
Governors are people and they like to whitewater raft too.
That's right. Here in Oklahoma, many of the governor's cabinet are YPOers. So It's a trusted group of people who are leaders that, lots of connections there.
As I've learned about YPO, and I have, recently thought about applying as we continue to scale our work here. And as I've heard about it from my close friend, Chaz, that I feel like there's a lot that alumni associations could learn from YPO. And I'm just curious, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but when you think about what YPO has done really well to build tight-knit community and really add value throughout somebody's life cycle, is there a role for alumni associations to borrow some of that playbook, or is it just a different lane?
No, I do. I absolutely think there is. And I'll tell you, some of that forum work, there are a lot of similarities to that and chapters. So I don't know if most alumni associations have chapters in some way, shape, or form. And I think the transition of the work that a chapter does, both for one another and for university, there's something there that I think you could really steal to change the conversation a little.
Well, I feel like one of the tensions with alumni associations, I mean, you've already touched on it, but it's about breadth, right? It's about old, young, rich, poor, domestic, global. It's about everyone. Whereas I feel like YPO has really gone towards depth, right? And I think it's about deep connections with a small group of like-minded people. And it's sort of the opposite of, going to the bar for the game watch, which is very fun, but it's not going to be nearly as substantive as the sort of, things that you might do in a YPO context. And that's hard because, when you've got hundreds of thousands of constituents, different ages, different industries, I mean, you could sort of slice it down to peer groups of 5 and be running, 50,000 peer groups, which probably isn't realistic for any alumni association.
Yeah, but there's something there. I really do think that there's a connection there. I mean, I think about at Alumni Association Career Services and those sorts of things that they have. What people really want is to know that when I move to Houston, Texas, that there's a group there that I can lean on to help support me both in my transition to community, but also in my career transition. I can lean on when I'm stuck as a growing professional. And we just tend to keep it very surface level there. So I think there's something to be said about what you said, the depth of the YPO experience could really be valuable in the alumni world.
Well, I look forward to hearing more as your forum activities advance. I might just touch base with you on the side and see, get your take there. I've got 2 more topics that I want to touch on, and then I'll let you go. The first is mentorship. It hasn't come up too much, but typically for folks in your shoes, there are people along the way who have believed in you, have made bets on you, have supported you, who have been, some of your mentors along your career journey.
Yeah, there have been a lot of people. I'll say every job I've been at, I feel very fortunate to have had a direct boss who believed in me a lot of times more than I believed in myself, and would give me opportunities that were way outside of what my job should have been. And that was even early days at the bank. I say Rex Horning, who was there, who was awesome. And that team, Rick Green, they gave me more opportunities to present to their board about things. It's just fantastic. Here, Kirk Jewell was my boss, and he let me do a whole lot that, again, was way outside of my lane, but he just let me give it a chance. David Woods, who is in Oklahoma City, he was at Giant Partners, now Magellan. And he's just been a great mentor and friend, and someone that I call often when I'm stuck to say, okay, help me think through, what am I missing? Give me a new perspective, and it's been awesome. And people here, I've been here for 10 years, and Burns Hargis has been fantastic, and Gary Clark, who was his kind of right hand, both just mentored me along. Anytime I had a question about something big or little, they were always willing to invest time, which is so unusual for someone in that position, just to be willing to sit down and say, okay, let's work through it. They never made me feel like I had to have all the answers, and were very genuine and just wanting to help. So I hope that I'm that kind of leader for people, that they know I'll give them the time and we'll work through it together.
You mentioned Burns Hargis, who I have not met, but as long as I live, he will have a special place in my heart, because he is one of the first college presidents who started doing trip planning with the EverTrue mobile app. And I was blown away to hear that story, because we're not always having, presidents beg for access, and not only get access, but really, leverage the technology super effectively. And so I just smiled when you mentioned his name. So very fun.
I'm proud to know he was here last week. And topic number one, when he sat in my chair here, was, hey, can you get Jacob to come down? I can't get into EverTrue. And I need some help. And so he still uses it today as president emeritus. He's still active in EverTrue.
I might have to ask you for an intro at some point. Maybe we get him on the podcast, and that would be a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing that. I'll also shoot you my cell if he ever needs to get into EverTrue. He can come direct right here. I'm happy to help out.
We are big EverTrue fans, so
he's in great hands with Jacob too, though. So one of the things you said, if you could change something about the sector, you would change the transient nature of talent. And you came up through the HR and talent management ranks, and this is a recurring theme. And as we sit here in the midst of the Great Resignation and all of the headlines that we're hearing about, just tell me a little bit about your perspective on that, the retention issues, but then also as you think forward here, where the next growth areas will be for the foundation. And if there are folks listening that have enjoyed hearing your perspective and love your enthusiasm for the momentum here in the coming months and years, what are the opportunities they should be aware of? So tell me about retention. Tell me about opportunities.
Yeah, retention has been an issue in our industry for a long time. And I do liken it sometimes to HR. It's an industry that has just emerged. Advancement and fundraising. We didn't have this industry 100 years ago, and people are just getting acclimated to what it is and how to connect with it. So part of it is just a shortage. We have more advancement work to be done than we have people. So I fully recognize that. But I also hope that people become a little more settled and willing to commit through a campaign. And that part of our job, I think, as leaders, is making sure that we are finding people who connect with the industry and the cause more deeply than what the title or the pay structure is. Also for us, I tell people, if the only reason you're coming here is that you love OSU, it's not the right thing. We all love OSU, but when you get into this business, you see the best and the worst of your alma mater. And you have to really believe in what you're doing beyond just the university brand at hand. So I hope people will evolve their thinking a little bit as to why they really are in this business and what's meaningful about it. And I hope that we can find ways to keep people connected to that in a better way. the Great Recession. I don't know if it's a pandemic tsunami, if that's what we're calling it, but it does feel like people need a change right now. And I don't know if it's just the fact that everything around us with COVID and society issues, that we feel a little out of control. And so this is an area that you can jump in and try to get control. So I certainly, can appreciate that for people, but the sticky factor is important when you're in the relationship business. And I think we've got to find ways.
Are you hiring now?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a lot of positions open. We're going through quite a transformation and really working to grow our organization and align with where the university is. So it's really that advancement mindset where we're trying to align with where we think the university is going to go, and hiring a lot of positions. So the thing here that's important always is adaptability, flexibility, that progressive kind of attitude. I always say servant's heart, the kind of people that say, hey, we could do this better and I want to try. Absolutely. That's the thing about the OSU Foundation that's so great, is there's just this willingness to say, okay, how could we be doing it? Tell me. But at the same time, we've got to find a little balance here. Our progressive nature sometimes means that there's just a lot of irons in the fire all at once. So we're trying to find a little bit of balance there and pace ourselves. So I love that Chris said velocity is. I
was going to say, we started with velocity, we're ending with pacing. Yes. So, I wish you the best as you find that balance, from delivering cows at 2 a.m. with high school friends to entry-level talent and HR work to leading the foundation. It has been really fun to just get a window into your career path and just to hear your genuine passion and enthusiasm for what has happened in the past, but also what's coming in the future. And I would just encourage everybody, look Blaire up on LinkedIn. She's active. She's out there making noise on behalf of Oklahoma State. And please feel free to connect with her.
Thank you. It's awesome. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, with that, Blaire, I will leave you, and to the Raise community, thank you. And we'll see you next time. Take care.